They're like, sports bettors went on to place tens of thousands, not hundreds of thousands, not millions, tens of thousands. So is it just like a guy trying to help a buddy out?
I think that's what it is. I think that's what it is. The poker side of things, this really stood out to me. The sophistication at which they were cheating.
Yeah.
You know, did you see that? Look, games were fixed using altered card shuffling machines, hidden cameras in poker chip trays, special sunglasses, and X-ray equipment. Welcome in, it's Behind the Lines, purifying sports betting, winning with SX. I'm Shane, Pace in the house. On today's show, betting scandals from around the world, from the NBA to Turkish soccer. DK is in the prediction game, and of course, Gosu will join us to hit the grind a little later in the show. We've got a few other topics we want to cover too. Pace, you got a betting story for us. We want to mix in a little bit of AI into the conversation. We'll get to all of that, but first, just how you doing? How was your week?
Great week, real good bounce back. I feel grateful because I touched on this last week, but I had a strong run during our challenging run. Not like, hey, I made a bunch of money, but I survived. And I think that one of the biggest things that will differentiate an experienced sports bettor is managing those losing runs in a productive way, in a way that doesn't break them. So I've been through enough. I've been through enough of them now that I came out of it unscathed. And yeah, solid week overall. We had a positive ROI in all the major sports. Nothing crazy, but really nice to get back in black. And I think it is the start of what's to come for the rest of this season. There's these transitionary periods that you have to go through that you never really are prepared for. And it's like, oh, hey, that's not there anymore. Or I can't bet that anymore, but it is still there. And I'm not going down that rabbit hole anymore. That list goes on, and just making those adjustments and figuring out, what's next in regards to where you're going to direct your attention as a bettor. And I think that, when you have a group of people that are working on things together and, you help each other out, that's obviously an important thing, but the group shouldn't dictate your success. And we all have our own betting fingerprint, and that's essentially what books we have access to in the location that we have for any given time period, whether that's that one day, whether that's that month, that year, whatever. But that's kind of our own individual betting fingerprint, and we have to own that. We have to learn how to extract value from the books that we have in the situations that we have. So I find that mine changes drastically. I'm really pumped for a Sunday where I've got like a really nice, buttered up book ready to rock and roll. And maybe I have a great Sunday knowing that I'm able to extract value from that sports book, and that'll impact my calls, and they'll go in a certain direction for that week, and then they won't be there at all that next weekend because those books are gone, and it's more of, hey, bet this if you can, which I think helps the group quite a bit as well. I know hockey this past weekend in particular, I think I called 5 bets that all won that I had 0 of. It's like, I'd take that if I could. And I saw, people firing guns and celebrating those moments. So that's what I like the most about In Play Live. It isn't a tracker. It's the coaching. It's the assisting with the situation, regardless of the outcome. It's the turning sports bettors into sports investors aspect of it. That's always sort of been what I feel strongest about.
Right. Okay. So a few bets that one that didn't go on the tracker, but hopefully some people got them.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Also feeling good. Had a pretty positive week myself. We'll call it a bounce back as well, although my bounce back might be a little longer. I've had a pretty tough stretch since the beginning of September, but a very, very good positive week overall for myself. Did it? I think I probably talked about it on last week's show or perhaps the previous week, but just kind of dialing back volume in a major way for me. I went undefeated on the NFL on Sunday, Pace.
Nice.
Yeah. I made 3 wagers.
Nice.
I went 3 for 3. Yeah,
that's gotta feel really good though.
It felt amazing, and it's great. It's nice. And it wasn't that I didn't want to be on stream. I was very busy as well. I had a lot of the running around and the dad stuff to do and all that. But I was able to to lock in for those moments and grab a couple of spots there. And so really happy to have executed on that. Here's another thing, though, that has impacted me over the past week, and I would say probably for the best. And that's, you can see this. I'm wearing a hat, Pace. I never wear hats. But,
Right.
I'm north of Toronto, and we are living through a moment right now. Blue Jays fans right across the country are just breathing this in and having a great time enjoying it. And I was thinking about it on Saturday, game 2. I went to my brother's place, and my dad was there, and had my other brother with me, and we had all of our kids were there, and it was a nice family gathering to watch the Blue Jays game 2. They didn't win that game, unfortunately, but we had a great time getting together and just enjoying a baseball game. And I was thinking about it. I'm like, I think it was my dad asked me, like, oh, have you made any money off the Jays and this or that? Because he knows I bet on sports, of course, and all that. And I was like, you know what, Dad? I haven't placed a single bet on the Blue Jays. Like, not against the Blue Jays, not on the Blue Jays, I haven't placed a baseball wager. And it's been so nice to just sit and watch the game with my family and just enjoy it. And as a fan, and I was thinking about it, I'm like, I don't think I've enjoyed a game without a wager on it in a long time. And it wasn't even something that's been like intentional. Like, I just haven't wanted to. I did look at Jays to win the World Series once they made it and saw the odds, and I was like, it's not really that exciting. I think they were like plus 180 or something like that.
It's pretty exciting.
I was like, yeah.
Good number.
Yeah, I was like, all right. It's cool. Like, I thought it would be higher. Thought it'd be bigger. I thought we'd get minimum plus 200, maybe plus 250, but that wasn't there. And I haven't placed a wager on it, and I'm absolutely loving it.
Right.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've just been sitting back watching sports and with nothing invested.
Yeah, and I think in our masterclass there's a part where we touch on watching without betting, but taking it to another level. Obviously, Shane, you're talking about it from like, the Blue Jays are sweeping the country, the city, whatever, and we're all behind them. And just being a true Jays fan, how amazing that is, which is awesome. That what you're describing is like the beauty of competitive sports and tribalism, and
exactly
the people that and love getting together. Now, flipping that script and talking about actual betting and gambling, the exercise is this: it's games on, books open, books funded. Don't bet. And you're talking about, hey, I'm enjoying this where I'm not betting. When you take it that one step further, that is you in the gambling environment being disciplined, showing that you don't have to make a wager on that game, on that outcome, on that situation. You're comfortable with opportunities passing on a regular basis. If you can do that as a bettor, what happens is you end up in a situation where you can't not take a bet. And what I mean by that is the value is too high. A situation arises where you go, I have to take this. I've been disciplined. I've shown the approach that I don't need to bet every game. This one is a must take, win or lose, because the value is too high. So that's something that we try to teach people. And I think that year in, year out, it doesn't matter. There's always someone or a group of people in our group that they just can't let stuff go. They have to take everything. They FOMO if they miss a bet. They're afraid that, something might get called and they'll miss the line. So you take it before it's called, then nothing gets called. And we see it because, when you're looking at a particular game towards the end of a game, it doesn't really matter what sport it is. There's a whole series of outcomes that you could have bet on. And we'll see people celebrate a win for no matter what the outcome was. And it's like, you're not showing discipline in those situations.
Exactly. Right. And we do see a lot of that. there's a lot of that out there, and people, the FOMO's real. The FOMO's real, but it's been really sort of, it's something I didn't even think about, and I think that's what's most interesting is that I didn't even clue it until my dad had asked me the question, and then I thought about it. I'm like, I haven't placed a single bet on baseball, period.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's just been so much fun to watch, and so I'll be watching tonight. I probably won't be watching a lot of Monday Night Football. I'll join the stream maybe after halftime, after the Jays game is done and nearing the end, kind of thing. Because it's just the whole family's gathered around. I got my girls with me, and it's awesome. We're just loving it.
The thing is like if even Jose Bautista's home run, it was
Oh,
against
yeah,
Texas,
from like 10 years ago.
but everyone remembers where they were when he hit that bomb. Now that wasn't the World Series, but rewind the tape, Joe Carter. Those are lifelong memories. Like your kids will never forget the moment that, something big happened for the Blue Jays in these series, especially if they can win. So like those core memories probably are bigger than, one betting night.
Oh, absolutely. And just even to be watching it with my dad on Saturday, that's one of those memories where it's like I was falling asleep, like on the floor, probably passed out on the couch when Joe Carter hit that home run,
Right.
and with my dad. And it's like, just to be able to watch a World Series again with him is just priceless. Absolutely priceless.
Yeah. And you never know. I mean, it's the kind of thing where the Jays could be back next year, but they might not be back for 20, 50 years. Just look at the Leafs.
That's what it is, right? You never know, right? It's like how many, just like the Leafs.
Just look at the Leafs.
We had to get a little dig in there, eh?
No, I just, these Toronto fans need to be checked a little bit.
Yeah, so, right. Of course. Yeah. No, you're right, though. We don't know when we'll get another World Series, right? It's just one of those things. It's like you got to enjoy it and just, embrace the moment. And that's, yeah. We'll see where we are a week from today. Pace the World Series will be over. Geez, crazy to think. Oh.
Speaking of sweeps on your Sunday slate, how about the NBA?
Oh man, the NBA. You're doing great in the NBA. I tailed one of your team.
8-1, 8-1 to start the season.
You're 8-1. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm doing well with NBA as well. It's just been great. I think I've placed 14 wagers, and I think I'm like 11 out of 14. But that does include a couple of team totals that you called. So props to you on those. Those team totals are looking good.
Shane, if you want to improve your record a little bit, we can chat offline.
Yeah, sure.
But the real point is NBA is here. We haven't really talked too much about it on this podcast. Watching the NBA, the product that I have seen in this first week, has been some of the most exciting basketball I have ever watched in my life. Not from the standpoint of like, oh my God, like this is the best defense or this is the best. No, it's two things. Number one, it's that these overtime games with the Thunder, the Warriors.
I was just going to say, how many have gone to OT? We've got like a handful that have already gone to OT.
Right, but watching Shea down the stretch and how clutch he was to come back in that first game, watching what Curry did against the Nuggets, it was all time. And then Aaron Gordon was insane in that game as well. And then last night, Reeves put up 51 points. That was insane. But honestly, the biggest thing for me has been watching Wemby find his place in this league.
Oh,
he has a highlight clip where he blocks two separate guys on the same possession, gets the ball, pulls up from the logo and hits a three. And it's like, this is his league now. If it isn't yet, it is tomorrow. Yeah. It is, and watch. It's just like, so from the standpoint of betting, obviously I've done well, but from a fanship standpoint, I think the league's in a really good spot with some of these rising stars coming up. And it's that sweet spot where we still do have Curry and LeBron here, as a part of the ecosystem in a competitive way. So it's going to be an exciting season. I do think the league has some bullshit. I'm sure we're going to get into that a little bit, but there is some bullshit going on in the league separately of the betting scandals, the way the tournament's organized in the middle of the season, questioning whether the players care about it, the way it impacts the flow of the game. I'm not dialed in on that yet as a bettor. I thought I was last season, and it caused me to pull back from the NBA entirely. So I don't know if I'm going to pull back during that time frame or not, while the in-season tournament's on. But I just think it's weird. I don't know what the point of it is. But yeah, anyways, exciting season ahead.
You're right, though. It is kind of weird because it falls – like there isn't, there's a window, right? I think the championship game gets played like at the beginning of December or something for the in-season tournament, right? But it's sort of like, oh, is this an in-season game today on this Friday? Like is that day of the week the in-season games? And it's like, but the other days of the week aren't. And you're constantly sort of just being like, okay, what day is in season, and do I want to get involved or not? And it's sort of that kind of. The way it's kind of sprinkled in, as opposed to having like a designated time.
Well, here's the thing: it's Tuesdays and Fridays.
And Fridays, yeah.
If you turn the game on, you'll always know because of the court. The court,
right? Yeah, you see the cool courts and the flashy courts,
right? So, but actual true betting advice is this: the rules of the game are different. And if you think that it's just basketball, everything's the same. If you're middling, sure. But if you're betting on specific strategies that work in the playoffs or work in the playoffs, it's the same rules. The game is different. It is a different game. I can tell you this is not playoff basketball, number one. And number two, the rules actually are different because the way you qualify to move on, score differentials matter. So like the last 24 seconds last year, I saw some of the most bizarre behavior ever. I saw teams where in the last 24 seconds, both teams jacked threes, both teams hit threes, and there's more points scored in the last 24 seconds of a meaningless basketball game in the history of all basketball games combined. Literally. That's not a joke. It's a fact, right? And then another team that goes, we're going to hold to make sure that they can't shoot back on us. And then the other team going, we're going to hold so that they can't shoot back on us. So when you're handicapping the situation, you're like, they both want to score over makes sense. And then you watch these teams hold because they don't want the differential to change against them. So when you know these things heading into those games, and in the first ones, you don't know them yet, but when you know them heading into some of the games, it's an advantage from the standpoint of if you know the tendency of the coach and you go, this is what they're most likely to do. I tried to do a little bit of that last year and I failed tremendously. So I'm not saying I'm not going to bet the NBA on those Tuesdays and Friday nights once the in-season tournament starts. However, as someone who's I never want to say fail, but as someone who's learned from those situations in the past, I think my biggest piece of advice is to really pump the brakes and just take a pause, get a sense or a feel for those games if you are gonna to bet or move forward with them, because they're not regular season games and they're not playoff games.
Yeah, and
bizarre.
The way teams approach them are so different,
Yeah.
and some teams actually really care and want to win this tournament, and other teams just don't even care. And so they might not, they might play out the final minute of a game as if it was any other basketball game, and not care about the differential. And it's like, you never know. You got to be dialed in.
So Shane, what's interesting psychologically speaking is financial incentives as the incentive for something. So
right.
We live in a world where people think like, oh, they're going to care. So I'll give you a few different examples. Okay. What was it called last year? The Frozen Frenzy, the final, the four nations hockey.
4 nations. Yeah. The hockey tournament.
I don't believe there was a financial incentive for first place.
No, but they cared.
Okay. Really good example of where financial incentives show you that they're not only insignificant as a motivational driver, they're arguably a deterrent in some cases. A different example of that will be a player who selfishly holds out for the largest contract that they can possibly get, successfully get it, and the rest of their career never looks the same, number one. And number two, the team as a whole is impacted by that salary and their ability to perform and win going forward. So we've seen a couple times. We just saw recently Connor McDavid take a pay cut to stay with the Oilers to try to win a cup. Tom Brady did the same thing with the Patriots in his final years with them. Took a smaller salary to make sure that the team was whole. So financial incentives, I think we view as something where it's like, oh, they're going to try because they're going to make money. The final of the NBA in-season tournament is not a regular season game, whereas every other game of the season is a regular season game, and the players all get $1 million or something like that. So if you're a bench player, that $1 million is massive to them. If you are LeBron James or Steph Curry, you certainly don't, turn your nose up to $1 million. But in the grand scheme of their annual revenue, you're looking at 2 days' work. There's an argument to be made for guys like that who want to win outside of financial incentive. Those are true competitors that want rings on their fingers. There's an argument that pursuing that game with any sort of high level intensity could be detrimental to their main goal. Right? From the standpoint of load management, potential added injury, the list goes on and on. Right. So, really good example of this. I play pickleball, Shane. They did a tournament recently where they had the highest purse possible. And it was an all singles tournament. No one showed up. No fans showed up. And it was the biggest purse. And the reason why is because people were more concerned with, I guess, more prominent events that had bigger status and more meaning associated to them outside of the financial incentive associated with it. So yeah, it's always an interesting discussion. And I think that from an organization standpoint too, like, we have sales boards and who's in first place and all that kind of stuff. That stuff, there is effectiveness to that kind of stuff. But as a motivator solely, those types of things, keep in mind, there's a top of the list. There's also a bottom of the list, and you have to motivate what's at the bottom. And those people have to come into work every single day and see their name on the board, not at the top. So it can be totally counterproductive.
Yeah, it's an interesting sort of way of how do you get people motivated, right? And this, where we sort of see it play out in so many different ways, with the in-season tournament. Yeah, a good opportunity there for some sociologists to study things. But you mentioned a lot of crap in the NBA. Why don't we start to dig through some of the shit from the past week? Because it's like, the league kicks off on Tuesday, right? Tipped off on Tuesday, the 21st. And then I think it was the following day, Wednesday, Pace, when you sent me over Adam Silver, commissioner of the NBA, on the Pat McAfee show. So that's Wednesday, right? And on Wednesday, he goes on Pat McAfee's show and does a whole interview there. And he says that when it comes to sports betting, his comments here, I think there should probably be more regulation on sports betting. We've asked some of our partners to pull back on some of the prop bets. Okay. So that's Wednesday, right? And we know that there's already been some betting scandals involved in the NBA. And here's the commissioner being like, yeah, maybe some of the people that are now, that we're now in bed with, maybe they could remove some of these wagering opportunities. And then I think it was on Thursday. Was it Thursday, the next day, that we had the betting scandal drop? Yeah. Yep. On Thursday. So it's like, Adam Silver is sitting there knowing that this shoe is about to fall. That the FBI is about to go and arrest, one of the league's coaches, the head coach of the Portland Trailblazers, Chauncey Billups, a former Toronto Raptor. Terry Rozier, who's if you're a fan of the NBA and you like basketball, Terry Rozier. He's a pretty popular player. Can have some outstanding games on his resume. These guys get caught up. There's another like 30 guys involved in this betting scandal. FBI holds a big press conference, and you just know Adam Silver was trying to get out ahead of this thing, by making those comments. Pace, you went on the news. You talked a little bit about it, the betting scandal, and then you had actually mentioned that they had a guy after you who came on, a regulator. And it sounds like, and I'll let you kind of get into it, but from what you told me, it sounds like this regulator doesn't know what the hell he's talking about.
Right. So Shane usually does all these topics, sends them to me before the podcast, and like sends me articles to read and stuff like that. And I never open.
You rarely open them. Yeah.
And then I get on the show, and then I hear it firsthand and comment on it, not having heard what the issue was in the first place for the most part. But in this case, I had the great opportunity to be featured on the news, to voice my comments on this exact scandal. Shane, I am an expert on this scandal. I did tons of research.
You did tons of research? I hope so. Hope you at least read one or two articles. That's all I was hoping for. But if you did more than that, good for you.
Oh, dude, I went nuts digging into that. I wanted to do a really good job. And the thing is that if I do a typical interview, oftentimes it might be like, say, about the Super Bowl or something like that. I don't need to really look into anything. Whereas with this, I was like, shit, I really don't know what. When I woke up and saw that I was going to be on CTV, I didn't even know what had happened yet. So dove into it and got as much information. I won't comment on, if people want to see that interview, you can just go over to CTV and check it out, or check it out on my Twitter. It's on one of the more recent tweets. It was a lot of fun to do. Now, I think the bigger picture here, and we've talked about these betting scandals as they come up, but the bigger picture here is obviously, how do you purify the game and eliminate this? And the answer is you can't, but you can strive to, right? So you can put yourself in a position to limit this as much as you possibly can. Maybe some people don't understand this, but players and coaches go through like these boring ass regulatory meetings that they have to sign off on separately of their contracts, of all the rules associated what you can and can't do. There's a famous scene in The Office on where they go in about crossing the line in the workplace, relating to how to speak to your coworkers, and it reminds me of that. But you go through these boring videos of what you're allowed to do, what information has to stay in the locker room, and what can and can't be shared even with your friends. And that's the thing is, you can have an innocent situation. In this particular case, we don't have innocent situations, but you can have an innocent situation where, you texted your brother that, your leg's really bothering you and you don't know if you can play that night. And before you know it, he views that as an opportunity and, maliciously takes that to gamblers or syndicates or whatever the case. Now, what's funny about this situation is they talk about the dollars associated with it. And in the poker scandal, that makes sense. They're robbing people of millions and millions of dollars.
$7 million in the poker
from
scandal.
one person was $7 million. It was more than that combined, right? So I guess I can see where you go. Okay, when we're talking about tens of millions of dollars, there's a financial upside. I still think it's insane for these guys because they have had such great career earnings, but the mafia is also involved with that. So then you have to question, like, what do they have on that person that's causing them to put them in this situation? For example, is it someone who is a gambler themselves, has a debt, and they say, this is how you can square your debt off because I know that you don't have that in cash. And they say you have to come to this poker game, and that's all they know. They just have to be there and play in it, and the rest is taken care of. Right? That we don't know those details, but that is possible. What's mind-boggling to me is the tipping of information of Rozier faking an injury and leaving, of whatever the hell Porter did, and Billups leaked that Dame wasn't playing in a certain game, and then the Lakers assistant coach, who wasn't the official assistant coach, what was it, Jones, him tipping that LeBron wasn't playing in one game and AD wasn't playing in another. That's what we know in this situation. Who knows how much more was actually occurring and going on? That's what they were actually like indicted on, and that's where the charges came from. Those ones are shocking because when you hear the numbers, they're like, sports bettors went on to place tens of thousands, not hundreds of thousands, not millions, tens of thousands. So is it just like a guy trying to help a buddy out?
I think that's what it is. I think that's what it is, right? Like, some of these, people have other people in their lives that aren't as wealthy as they are, right? And we know that a lot of players are coming from backgrounds that there's not a lot of generational wealth to go around, and you have an opportunity to help your buddy make what would be life-changing money for him.
Right. So Shane, a lot of people don't know this, but do you know in both games where Jones tipped that LeBron wasn't playing in the one and AD wasn't playing in the other? Do you know in both games the Lakers won?
There you go. Right.
So apparently, I don't know who the people are, but the betting groups or friends or whomever lost it and asked Jones to refund their bets.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
What kind of bettor is going to ask for a refund?
The ones that they pooled all the money that they had to place these. You're helping a buddy out. It's like, hey, LeBron's out tonight. Doesn't mean the Lakers aren't going to win.
Yeah, no,
the Lakers won in both occurrences.
It's wild.
It's just incredible.
That's crazy. And the poker side of things. You know what else got me? Yeah, the poker side of things. This really stood out to me. The sophistication at which they were cheating.
Yeah.
Did you see that? Like, look, games were fixed using altered card shuffling machines, hidden cameras in poker chip trays, special sunglasses, and X-ray equipment at these tables. And these were sort of set up as a way, like, hey, come play poker. You get to play against a former NBA player or a current NBA player, an NBA coach. I just wonder, like, who was going to play in these high stakes poker games? I'm thinking of like some of the celebrities that we know love to play poker. I'm thinking Tobey Maguire and Leonardo DiCaprio, getting cheated out of a few $1 million at a table or something. I don't know if that's what it was, but it's just crazy to think.
But it is similar to that, Shane. And you're saying who is playing at these games? Well, there's something to be said about the whole like gray market of sports betting and specifically PPH sites. So working with bookies, and underground poker games. So separately of anything sort of off the cuff or nefarious happening, people go to these outlets. Number one, for privacy, right? Number two, when it comes to privacy, there's the element of like, hey, I am Kevin Garnett. I can't place this bet. I'm not allowed to, but I can go place it through this bookie because it's he doesn't know who I am, right? Number three, the traceability associated with privacy. You might be able to go there with a bag of cash, or you might have a credit with some of these mafia guys or some of these bookies where you know you're operating on credit, and that could be associated with a gambling problem, or that could be associated with I don't want a trace of what's going on here, and we have our own system for how we settle things. And then number four is going to be the private nature of who you are physically. So you don't have to go into a casino to play in a poker game where they're like, holy shit, Michael Jordan's here playing poker. He can go into this underground game where people understand or, sign off that there can't be any information shared. So Molly's Game is one of the best films ever made.
Great film. Love it.
If you take Molly's Game and you imagine, hey, here's what's going on. And I think for the most part, what happened in Molly's Game seems super legit from the standpoint of a legitimate, obviously it's not legitimate, but a legitimate game being played. Yeah. We don't know the details.
No cheating. No cheating. That's what you're referring to. Yeah.
Yep. Take that and now rig the whole thing. And sometimes, like, just the way I think, I know I talk about like, oh, if bullshit's happening in sports, it's not happening in most occurrences. Well, the way certain dealers can manipulate card decks, it's that some people would consider in the realm of magic. It's not out of the question for you to just hire a dealer in any of these home games. And even in casino situations, you never know what's really going on. I think the whole thing leans to just staying out of that world entirely. And I don't mean the underground shit. I mean all of it. There's a lot of shuffling machines and stuff at casinos that I look at and I question. I was on a cruise ship years ago. And I was like, why do they enter into the shuffling machine that I changed seats? Why do they enter into the shuffling machine that someone else came and sat down beside me? I'm playing a losing game. I know that, but why can't I win a hand right now? No one else is in here. Are they using me to hit their monthly revenue? Right? Like I've seen that stuff happen in real time. And then in the poker boom, we saw people hack systems where, number one, entire people's bankrolls got stolen. But number two, they could go in God mode and see all the hands happening, where they could hack in and know what everyone had while they were playing and then make their decisions based on that. And apparently in these poker games, they knew what was coming next. So a guy would go all in and he'd have a gut shot straight draw for millions of dollars, and he'd call them, which would make no sense, and the gutter would hit on them, right? So I don't know. I understand why people would be drawn to those games from the all those privacy reasons I listed, but at the same time, it's like, oh my god, like the world we live in today isn't necessarily a fair game all the time. So you really have to have your radar up when it comes to the scams of people calling you and AI and everything that's going on there, all the way to, how you're deciding to gamble. Now, sorry, just to wrap this up, when it comes to the sports side of things, they've got to educate as best as they possibly can so that people that are legitimately dumb texting their buddies something, that just has to stop, right? The second part of it is exactly what we just saw. You have to come down on them with a fucking hammer. You have to make it clear that this is not acceptable behavior. No wiggle room, period, right? So what ends up coming of Rozier, obviously separately of the legal side of things, the NBA has to, they already had done an investigation, but now that they have more information, they have to come down with a hammer on him to make an example of him so that people obviously discontinue this. And Billups has just got to be like crucified when it comes to the world of sports, in hopes that we can lean towards a more a safer environment for all the sports books and everyone to operate in. And then the last part of that is the sports books themselves. I totally get it. if you're not a prominent player, just getting rid of the props of guys that are like 1 rebound and like 4 points and stuff like that. Just get rid of them. They're not crucial to the game itself. And then Shane, this is what you asked me. This is like 30 minutes later. After I was on the news, a regulator came on. Guess what he
we finally
said?
got there.
So I'm watching my segment, and then an hour later, it's the same story with a new interview about the same thing. The regulator says, well, I think we need to stop offering the ability for sports bettors to bet on the amount of minutes players play.
The minutes market. Do you know anybody who's ever encountered a minutes market?
It just shows you that
like, what is this guy talking about?
Exactly. They don't have an expert in the position that is making the rules for us and for the sports books. Yeah. You don't even know what they bet on. And that's where I was just like, oh my God, like this is bad. Well, so you've got to increase the betting IQ of the regulators.
Yeah, big time. And we've seen this over and over again now. The more you look at regulators, attend regulator meetings, see the comments they make, even at Bet Bash Pace, one of the seminars had a regulator at it. It was one of the least attended ones, but I was there because that's where my head's at while I was there. But it was it came up, and it was actually one of the best discussions, I think, because it was a smaller group of people in the audience. The audience really got into it, and we were all talking to each other and with the panelists and that kind of thing. But again, it was abundantly clear that the regulators know very little about the space, and many people in that room felt like that was okay. That you can't expect regulators to know about the space they're regulating because they don't come from backgrounds in that space. And it could be a whole slew of different sectors of the economy that we're talking about. But a lot of these regulators are lawyers or politicians, and they're just being tasked with something. Like, look at this space and come up with a regulatory framework, but they have to do all of the research and education about the space, and people, and for them it's work and it's a job, and yep. We know how people can approach their jobs sometimes,
and that's why when sports betting got regulated across North America, the regulators were shocked that sports bettors were getting limited. They didn't know.
No
idea.
Yeah, and even still, it's still news to some people out there that practice happens, and they're only just catching up to it now.
Yep.
Yeah, it's amazing. You talk about people complaining about sports betting or sports being rigged, and things are against the bettor, and the constant conversation online about this was rigged, or the refs were on KC, KC always gets the calls, all that sort of conversation, right? And you want to blame someone for your losses and say it was rigged against you and this and that and corruption. But, we are, the NBA is a good point there. Like, it happened, and this stuff does happen, and it can happen. It doesn't happen probably most of the time, but it does happen. And it fuels that sentiment out there. And all it takes is one or two instances of it. And I've got another instance to share here on the show. This is coming out of Turkey, and soccer is huge globally. Pace, this. The betting markets for soccer are just massive in some cases. People here in North America might not totally understand. If you don't dabble in soccer betting at all, of just how big it is. And for a long, long time, FIFA's been one of the most corrupt organizations in all of sports. They had a huge scandal back in, I think it was 2014, 2015, when it came to how contracts were awarded and that kind of thing. But for years, it's been known that FIFA is way up there in terms of being one of the most corrupt organizations in all of sports. And now we're getting this story out of Turkey here. So the Turkish Football Federation has revealed that out of 571 active referees, 371 had accounts on betting sites. And 152 actively placed bets, including 7 that fall into the category of elite referees. So these are the guys who are managing the games at the highest level in Turkish soccer. So Turkey's Premier League. 15 main assistants, 36 lower division referees, and 94 assistants. This makes up the 152 that are actively placing wagers. It's like, you got the referees are placing bets on games. Maybe, they'll say that wasn't the games that they were refereeing, but how do we know? How do you know? How do you know that you didn't tip off a referee, or you weren't talking to the refs that were refereeing the game that you were betting on? That number though, 571 active referees, 371 have active betting accounts. It's like we're talking 65% here. 2/3 of them are doing it. Here's the comment from the head of the league there, the president of the Turkish Football Federation. His name's Ibrahim, and I'm not even going to try to say his last name. We will clean up what is dirty to bring Turkish football to the level it deserves. Clubs also need to investigate themselves, including the players. So, he's like, we're going to do our part, but hey, guess what? There's probably a whole lot of shit going on amongst the actual clubs themselves and the management there and the players. So
Right.
Really kind of just hinting at it's not just the referees here, guys. It's like, man, they got to really get a hold of this thing, because the integrity of the game is being eroded. We are seeing it, and it's happening here in North America, and it's happening in other parts of the world.
Yeah, so I think there's a couple things here. The first is from the betting public. You have to ask yourself the question of, did this actually affect my bet? In most cases, I would say it didn't. That's number one. Number two, what was investigated in the NBA obviously is a big deal. This Turkish thing sounds like just the more you get away from the highest level, we've talked about this with the CFL, the more likely it is to see this type of behavior. Now, as someone who watches as much sports as I do, the evidence is ongoing that the players are betting. It is almost always, it seems, the obvious ones is that they're betting on themselves. So all college football season, you have watched coaches behave in obscure ways late in games to cover spreads. James Franklin was like a 40 some odd point favorite against a team where he could kneel out. The opponent had no timeouts. He used his timeouts to score late and cover the spread, and then the team scored back on him. Team scored back on him.
He lost his bet,
which was hilarious because we had a really weird middle, because the losing team went for 2 and failed after they scored, hitting us a crazy middle that week. But last weekend, Shane, and when you talk about investigation, so it's a 27-point game in Miami Hurricanes, Mario Cristobal. The game's over. The opponent doesn't have any timeouts, and they have the ball. They're driving to score. We actually bet thinking that there was a chance that this was going to happen. So we ended up getting minus 27.5 at like 2.5 on Saturday. But we're sitting there going like, will he do what we think he might do? Drives down the field, collects a series of first downs, is playing hurry up. We're laughing, thinking like, hey, we have a chance. 2-minute warning pops up. It's a first down. Typically, you'd come back to kneel outs. We don't. He's throwing the ball. He gets one more first down in this tiny little pocket window at the 1-yard line. And it cuts to all the players. And they're all laughing, but they're like, you can see they're all like putting their hands together, praying like, we're going to hit it. We're going to hit it. It is notably
they pulled their
obvious.
Money together. They've all got their money pooled together on a wager.
It is notably obvious gambling behavior from the players, all hoping that they cover the spread. They don't kneel out. He scores in the dying seconds of the game. There's like 10 seconds left instead of kneeling out. We were thankfully on the right side of that one. But when you see it in real time, you don't even need an investigation. It's like shockingly obvious. Everyone's seen the clip with the Warriors. I think it was last year. I think it was against the Wizards. And they made the free throws to cover the spread. And Curry's hiding behind a towel. And it looks like one of the bench players has made quite a big bet on the Warriors to cover. And you can see his voice in slow motion. They've slowed it down. And he says they can still hit a 3 basically to backdoor me. and they pull up and they hit the three, and the whole Warriors bench falls over with their hands in their head. So players are betting. And then to add insult to injury, I don't know if you saw this, Shane, but the NCAA just made it legal for both players and coaching to bet on professional sports. And what they're trying to, like, there's no upside to that other than the sports books. So what you have is, with this nil money, now millions of dollars of people learning to sports bet and lose their money. But the issue with that is you create this multifaceted layer of the next generation of professional players already conditioned to gamble on the very league that they're about to be playing in, number one. Number two, comfortable with how it all works so that they can speak through friends and, place money however it is that they want to place it. And then what's to stop them from betting on their own games, which, as I've mentioned, we're already seeing. Like, there's no upside there. Players should not be allowed to gamble on leagues that they play in, and on leagues the players, professional athletes, and people now in college athletes are now professional athletes with the nil money. They shouldn't be allowed to gamble on anything.
On anything. Absolutely, I agree. You shouldn't be able to gamble on any league you compete in. Right off the hop there. Like that seems like a no-brainer. But then it becomes, how do you police it, right? So it's like, before you weren't allowed to bet at all. Well, now you're allowed to bet, but maybe you can't bet on this, or you can't bet on your team. But who's gonna police that? You know what I mean? Like, who's gonna be there monitoring people's bet slips? It's a very slippery slope. I do think, as we talk about all of this, I think that this whole thing gets far worse before.
Yeah, I agree. Well, they've just opened the door for that, right?
Yeah.
So, like, in Canada, I don't know how it works in the US when you open an account, but we have a whole KYC process.
Right.
That every sportsbook has a KYC process, pretty much. We have a KYC process, if you're in Ontario, that's identical to the process that you would have opening a bank account or opening an investment account, a tax-free savings account, essentially a 401k in the States, like opening, where you have to answer a whole series of questions, list your profession, but then you get asked questions like, are you a politically exposed person? Are you a U.S. citizen for tax purposes? Are you a citizen of any other country for tax purposes? These are the questions that have to be asked. Well, the KYC process should involve athletics, because that's, number one, a risk to the sports book, knowing that if they're a professional athlete, their ability to manipulate their very own lines that they're offering is right in front of them, right? Number one. And then number two, which leagues they play in, and if the legality, then allows for it. Because, like you said, Shane, if they are a college athlete, which they now are allowed to bet on professional sports, does the college menu disappear for them?
Yeah, well, exactly, right?
No.
Like, does it go away? No, of course not. It's right there.
Yeah.
You know what this reminds me of, Pace? This is like you opening markets on SX at the In Play Live event and posting all the liquidity, betting on yourself to win a cornhole match, like all that sort of stuff. It's like, that's exactly what it is.
Right,
it becomes
and this is the thing I would say, and this is what I say at the In Play Live event. You'll see all my markets. I'm only betting on myself. So if I fail, everyone else wins, right? And that's why, like, I don't think Mario Cristobal should have been trying to cover the spread late. But at least he was betting on himself. It isn't like he let the other team cover, which is then an aspect of throwing something, right? He had to play to the very last whistle when he should have knelt out. This is also a coach who's fumbled the ball 2 times when he could have knelt out and lost both games, right? And he's still he's still going forward with it. It's insane. It's insane.
Yeah. Well, people want to win their bets. Yeah. That's what it comes down to. You've got a book story you want to share and get into a little bit of an AI conversation, but I just want to quickly mention as we sort of round out the news here that DraftKings is now into the prediction game. So we saw Flutter get in it and is planning to launch prediction markets. and now DraftKings is doing it as well. It acquired a platform called Railbird. I had never heard of it, but they're going to be using it to launch what they're calling DraftKings Predictions. Not a bet. These aren't bets, Pace. These are predictions. Okay. Let's make sure we get that clear here, okay?
Yeah.
The guy's saying, Jason Robbins, he's the CEO of DraftKings. We're excited about the additional opportunity that prediction markets could represent for our business. We believe that Railbird's team and platform, combined with DraftKings' scale, trusted brand, and proven expertise in mobile-first products, positions us to win in this incremental space.
Wow.
We'll see about that.
So there's also there's court cases going against these companies like Kalshi and Polymarket, but I feel like your ability to win those cases decreases significantly when you now say we're so excited about these prediction markets.
The regulators are definitely they got to be scratching their heads and wondering wait a minute, why did we let DraftKings into our state?
Instead they need to figure out how to be a part of. The regulators need to figure out how to be a part of that ecosystem now themselves. But as a player, I will say, open up those lines now. Look at what they were 1 year ago to today. They're full blown sports books now. We've got it. We've got it all, or we're approaching getting it all on these sites. So, excellent news from the betting standpoint of things. Shane, book story. Okay, first thing I'll tell you, AI is a massive part of the world that we live in today, and it's just getting started. But as a bettor, you should be using AI not to place your bets, but to assist you in your betting. You have to view AI as your own personal betting assistant for information and for tracking and for note taking. So I am actively updating. You train. This is what I want to track. This is why I want to track it. And I'm going to be feeding you information on this, and this is how I want you to log it. And then when I ask for it, this is how I want you to spit it back at me. And once things get more and more elaborate, they can just spit out CSVs for you. The list goes on and on. Now, that process I've been working on myself and really building a database of excellent information in a whole series of different situations across the sports and leagues that I bet on. And it's been hugely helpful to me so far. Now, from the standpoint of sports books, when you get outside of the regulated ecosystem, AI has been tremendously helpful for me in identifying new sports books and opportunities to bet on. So as an example, I will say something like, hey, I really liked betting on Bet99. Can you please find out all the information about the company, who the odds provider is, the list goes on and on. And what's nice about it is they will find contracts and read through contracts really quickly that identify ownership. And affiliate companies. And they'll list out and spit out a whole bunch of sports books that they believe could have an association with the book that you gave them. And then you can dig in and give them more information about the books that they spit out. And you start ending up being able to narrow down on getting new books with the same or similar lines. And it's crazy. All of a sudden I'm like, okay, I did really well over here. And they just gave me a book I had never heard of. And I've got a brand new sports book now that literally is the same owners, the same lines, everything that I never saw before. So I've been doing that all season long, and I've found some absolute gems doing it. So the sportsbook story that I have this week is related to exactly that.
So one of these books. Okay, wait. I gotta just ask though, because people are going to want to know: is this ChatGPT? What are we talking about for AI? Are you using something else? Sora, Sauna? What are you using?
I do use the Sauna from time to time, but I think it's the one in my building.
Okay.
I didn't know there was
you know the Sauna. Okay, anyway, I've got access to a Sauna. Sauna actually brings ChatGPT together with some other forms of AI. It's sort of a bigger thing made for businesses and large businesses and that kind of thing. Yeah. It uses a couple of large language models.
I would say anything that operates in the same capacity as like a Grok or a ChatGPT, where they can do that deep dive analysis and information finding for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
It needs to be able to search the web, because sometimes you got a limited version of a ChatGPT that can actually do searching on the web and that kind of thing. But what you're using is probably ChatGPT like 5, and you've got
this
like
is a paid version.
you've got a paid version. Exactly. This is not a free version. You're going to have to pay for the service, all of that. Yeah.
Grok and ChatGPT in both cases. So in this particular case, I was using a Sportsbook last year that is essentially the perfect situation for me. Lose a bit of money, get an enormous leash, get huge limits, and then crush them. So did that with success with this Sportsbook. I will say the name, not to promote, no affiliation whatsoever. The book was called QBet. And I used ChatGPT to find me a similar sports book. And sure enough, I found 30bet. So I deposited with 30bet, looking excited to get those same or similar opportunity that I had last year with the QBet lines. And go to place a bet, couldn't place a bet. It says contact support. So I go to contact support, and they're like, oh, you just need to lower your limits. You're just betting too much. I'm like, there's a max bet button for a reason. And I've went from the 1,000 max bet to the 500 to 100 to 10. It doesn't matter the amount. It will not take the bets. They go back and forth with me for like 4 or 5 days and saying things like, oh, it looks like the bet actually went through. They never did. Each one says max bet exceeded, contact support. So then anyways, I woke up this morning to an email saying, we've made the decision to eliminate your ability to sports bet on our site. Never made a bet with them. So basically I got clipped before making a bet because, and I don't know the details yet. And I send back to them, are you going to let me withdraw my funds? And they said, it is policy that you have to roll your money over before you withdraw.
But you
and
can't
I'm like,
place
how
a
am I
wager.
supposed to do that? And they're like, you're welcome to play in the casino. So scumbag alert, 10 out of 10. Anyways, my QBet account from the previous year, I was limited. It was like, $15 bets, maybe max, right? So like I'm done. I've cashed out. It's all said and done. About an hour later, I get an email from QBet. You are no longer allowed to play on our sports betting site.
Oh,
so the AI did a phenomenal job of not only finding me the exact lines, they found me the exact same company. So this is one of those ones where,
and so they had linked you, and they knew that, oh, we've already limited this guy over here. We're not going to let him play over here.
clipped it one, clipped it all. Now here's my advice to everyone if you are in this position. When you go and find these books, don't go, okay, I'll start here and I'll work my way down the list. Open them and verify them and fund and lose in all of them, because you have a higher probability of then going, okay, I got clipped here, but I'm still good here. Let's keep this going. Now, if you get clipped here and you get clipped over here, at least you went at it in a more productive way that gave you the chance of not getting clipped at both at the same time. But really powerful exercise. And then on top of that, when you database this stuff and you ask it all those questions, you can come back and say, what was that list again? Sends you that list back, which is really, really nice. But then you start managing it all through there, where you go, this one's cooked, this one's in this status, this one's in that status. And they repeat that information back to you. And it is like your own little betting personal assistant. I've been doing it for a while now. We just haven't spoken about it. And I think the big thing for me is that it has been legitimately helpful in all the reasons that I just listed, but also in recovery of funds, in helping with some legal matters before getting to the stage of going to a lawyer.
Really? Oh, just sort of preparing and crafting
sending demand letters, starting polite, all of it. Yeah.
Right. Sort of coming up with a strategy even, right? Hey, start here,
totally.
Send this. Then if they don't, respond the way you want, here, we'll follow up with this. Yeah. That makes that, wow, it really does make life so much easier, when you don't have to actually write the letter yourself.
Yeah, totally. And I'm just going to say this one more time. More reports of sportsbooks out of Costa Rica. Just don't do it.
Don't do it.
I'm getting people messaging me, hey, this book stole my money. Hey, how can I get my money out? And I go, look, it's Costa Rica. You're done.
Right.
Don't
Like, good
do it.
luck,
Yeah.
why is that? Do you know? Like, is the regulator in because there is a regulator in Costa Rica.
There is no regulator.
No regulator.
It's just like this open business license. Like get a Costa Rica business, and you can do whatever you want. It's just nonsense. It's nonsense. It's nonsense.
Wow. I hear a lot of people wanting to go like travel to Costa Rica and visit Costa Rica. It's like a very popular tourist destination these days.
If they do, tell them to contact me. I got some doors for them to knock on.
Yeah, right. I don't know if you'll be any more successful that way collecting. I bet you those doors are like
they're
like,
PO box. They're PO boxes.
Yeah, exactly. They're not even real doors.
Yeah,
those places. Oh man! All right. Well, this is a lot of fun. But Pace, it's probably time for us to bring in John and hit the grind. All right, the great Gosu is with us now. That means it's time to hit the grind. John, how you doing, man?
Good. How about you guys?
Doing all right. Getting through the week here. Rooting for my Jays. We'll see where we're at come midweek. Where we're at next at this time next week. We'll either be in full jubilation, preparing for a parade, or perhaps still crying under the sheets. Yeah. But let's get to some football here, John. What have you got for us on the college front?
Yeah, so started off at noon here. Game of the year: Penn State at Ohio State. I'm kidding. What a tragedy that game is. So the first game we could talk about, I guess, Vandy at Texas. I think Texas opened 2.5. I don't think Arch is going to play personally. We'll know more but by the time this comes out, people will have a better idea because they'll have released those first availability reports. But I make this game a pick with Arch. So right now I took a little bit of Vandy money line at plus money. I think if Arch is ruled out, which we may not know in college football, they just always never really say, typically until game time. There's really no advantage to disclose it if they don't have to say who's gonna start or who's not. But anybody who watched the end of that game, he looked like he couldn't really stand on his own for a couple minutes there at the end. He looked pretty concussed. So I just went ahead and took Vandy. It's just Diego is a dog. I think you just have to do it. He hasn't been a dog in a while, so that's one you just gotta bet. Next one, at noon, Miami at SMU. Miami back in the top 10. I've taken SMU plus 11.5 here. You can actually get better numbers now. I'm a little surprised the line's kind of moved against him. I may get closer to a touchdown here. This SMU team's not as good as last year. They just lost at home to Wake Forest, at Wake Forest, which wasn't surprising. That was also a weird game. I don't know if you guys saw that field goal at the end, but it went over the uprights, but also hit the base of the goal post. Like it just somehow barely went in. Pretty wild into that game. That was the game with 4 turnovers in a minute of game time. It's a really weird game. So I like SMU to bounce back here and give Miami another little scare at home here. So SMU plus 11.5. Anything better than that? Again, there's 13 out there, a little bit juicy, but I would take that. But 11.5 or better.
Wow, and you make the game a touchdown. So that's a big discrepancy there.
It is. And I think part of it is just because I think people are down on SMU, and I think people can't get enough of Miami. I think that Louisville loss was definitely fluky, but it's just what I expect from this program that I'm repping with my hat and who I have bet to win the ACC, and I just pray they can hold on. Right. On the ACC, I will mention we're kind of headed for some kind of doomsday scenario for the playoff committee. It's not really worth getting too much into it, but essentially you could have all these teams not playing each other, like Virginia, Louisville, Miami, for the rest of the season. And then there's Notre Dame in there who lost to Miami. All these teams could end up with one loss. Kind of a nightmare because I think most people would agree there's probably 5 or 6 SEC teams and then other obviously Big Ten teams like Oregon that should get in over them. Could be a catastrophe. So hopefully a lot of those teams just start dropping some games. We can avoid that scenario. The next game I like, and I swore I wouldn't do this, but I'm back here again to the well. I am taking Nebraska plus 7 at home against USC. I can't get to this number of a touchdown here. I don't think Nebraska's all that great, but I think Nebraska's competitive. against these ranked teams. The loss, the first game of the year, people thought was a little questionable when they barely beat Cincinnati, and Cincinnati's proven to be quite a good team this year. I think people were down on them. So everything on Nebraska's resume is kind of understandable, except that just quit job they had on the road at Minnesota. USC just doesn't travel well. I know this isn't an early kick, but we've just seen consistency in the smaller time frame that we've had these ACC and Big Ten teams joining from the West Coast, that when teams go from the West Coast to the East Coast, or at least even to central time zones, they don't do well. And the same is also true for teams going from the East Coast to the West Coast. It doesn't seem to really matter when the kick is. Definitely would be worse for USC if it's a noon kickoff Eastern time. But just in the limited sample we've gotten in these conference games, these teams don't do well when they're the ones traveling these great distances in these time zones. So I just have to take the +7 there. The +7 is -115 is what I'm betting it on the regulated books. So you're like Hard Rock, those kind of books, they're dumb enough to let you buy a point from 6.5 to 7 for 10 cents. The same as buying from 4.5 to 5, just hilarious. Your win expectancy gained there is like 5 times buying the other number, but they're letting you do it for the same price. Just some really terrible bookmaking. So that's what I do with those games. But I would take 6.5 out there if you want that.
Okay,
but we can track that for the. Yeah, I'm paying for the 7, but I wouldn't go past -120. But for the podcast purposes, I'm comfortable taking the 6.5 as well.
Gotcha.
And I'm confident in this one. I think it should be about a field goal. The next one, this one is pretty nasty. I am back with Frank Reich again after he got front doored by Mario Cristobal in Miami last week, and I'm taking Stanford +14.5 at home against Pitt. I think this Pitt team is bad. They seem to keep lucking into wins week after week, lucking into covers as well. There's some really low post-game win expectancies for teams winning by multiple scores, not your 99% you'd expect to see. I don't think they should be laying 2 touchdowns to anybody. And again, it's the east to west coast travel going all the way from Pittsburgh to Stanford. In California, that's a tough one, and that kick is pretty early. It's just kind of a weird spot for them. So I like Stanford there.
Okay.
And then finally, an extra bonus pick this week for the late night degenerates. Though this game isn't as late as it might be if it were on the island, but taking Hawaii +2.5 against San Jose State. I think the market just still can't really catch up to Hawaii. I've been kind of betting them as an underdog every week, and they keep winning outright. They're 6-2 now. The San Jose State team, 2-5. They've been a real disappointment as someone who has a ticket on them to win the conference. Just not impressed by them at all. Hawaii, to me, is the superior team. It's not as bad of a travel week. Normally, you want to fade Hawaii on the mainland. They've done well this year on the mainland, and they are coming off of a bye, so it makes the travel a little bit more manageable. I think they should be favored by 2.5 in this game, and I'm getting +2.5, so we'll happily take that.
All right, little sprinkle on the money line there too.
Always, yeah. Oh, money line on all of them. You always get it. Even Stanford, all the way up until I'm betting. If I get to 17, I will stop sprinkling the money line at +17 if I'm taking an underdog that big. But 16.5 or less, history says put a little on the money line.
Interesting.
In college football.
That's the limit for you though. 17, it's like no more. We're not touching the money line. But anything less than that, you're in on the money line too.
And maybe with exchanges and getting out of that massive VIG, as the money line gets fatter and fatter, the VIG gets bigger, right?
Yeah.
And maybe getting out of that, I'd have to check in, look at some data on that. But historically, when you're paying the juice, the 16.5 is where you stop in college.
All right, good to know. Moving over to the NFL.
Yeah, honestly, some decent games this week. Obviously, we get Bills Chiefs, which feels like a little mini Super Bowl in and of itself every year.
And that's not in prime time though either, is it?
It is not. No, unfortunately, I think we're stuck with maybe Marcus Mariota again in prime time on Sunday night. So based on what I've got something for us there. But starting off, the first game I'm taking under 44.5 in Carolina, Green Bay. A little bit of weather expected here. I'm seeing like 15-mile-per-hour winds as it stands right now. Obviously, this is early in the week, but lower temperatures as well. Looks like Andy Dalton again. I was really going to get excited to take the Panthers at like double digits after the Packers just won convincingly on the road against the Steelers, and then the Panthers looked so bad. But unfortunately, I think Andy is back in the saddle this week for them, and I think our biggest enemy to this under is him throwing a pick six or fumbling on his own 10-yard line. But I'll take my chances with the red rifle there and go under 44.5.
I can't believe that guy's still kicking around.
The difference between like Flacco, for instance, and him is pretty crazy. And then obviously Rodgers, but Rodgers is an all-timer.
Yeah.
But how Andy Dalton is still playing in this league is pretty wild.
Yeah, it is. All right, what's
next one, sounds gross. I'm taking the Raiders +3 at home against the Jaguars. I actually can give the Raiders a little bit of home field here because I don't know how many Jags fans are out there in the West Coast or in the Vegas area. So they actually get a little bit of a home field bump for me here. I like it this team's done, but I at least don't think that I don't know that they're a quit bunch with old Pete. So I expect them to come out. They've had a couple really terrible showings recently. I can't get to the 3. I make it like 2-ish, 1.5, 2 here. The Jags on the road. I don't think the Jags are very good. So getting a 3 here, you can actually get 3.5 at -112 at the sharpest odds making group in the planet, Canby. So I took the 3.5 personally, but 3 is fine. Next, even worse, taking Tyler Shuck and the New Orleans Saints +14.5 at the Rams this week. I don't. So the Rams, McVay in his history doesn't really tend to blow out bad teams and superior teams. So that's just kind of a trend for him. And next week they play San Francisco. So a really, really important game for them. And this isn't like college where he's simply not practicing for New Orleans this week. But if there's anything that resembles a college game, it's a team that's, I would say, pretty clearly in the tank. But that doesn't mean that these players and even the first year head coaches are going to try to at least like make the game competitive. So I obviously can't get to 14.5. I don't know that Shuck's like that much worse than Rattler. I don't know that he wasn't any better than Rattler was when Rattler got benched, but he's a rookie. Gotta just see what he's got, I guess. So that one's nasty. Next pick, Washington +3.5. I think this is going to be Mariota. I think it's already priced in that it is because they're home dogs over a field goal. I think Seattle's good, but Sam Darnold outdoors, I think it's going to be kind of iffy weather ish potentially there. Not that excited about Sam on the road being a favorite. So I like Washington. They were definitely competitive against the Chiefs in the first half. They might have even looked like the better team for most of that first half. And then I don't know what happened in the second half. They kind of just, whatever game plan they had got figured out and they kind of ran out of gas there. But I like them against what I think is a less obviously good team, getting 3.5 at home. It's a little bounce back. And finally on Monday night, I like Kyler Murray and the Cardinals +3 at Dallas. I think these teams are essentially even to me. I give Dallas like a point here for home field. This is where I've got this game, so I'll happily take the 3. This is another Canby special where they have the 3.5 at -113. I think swell guys. So I've taken that. So yeah, it's pretty gross. A lot of dogs. Not exciting. Dogs are once again losing. Favorites are covering again this year now. I think favorites are in the last 2 weeks something crazy like I think there's only been like 5 underdogs to cover in the last 2 weeks. So that's why I think you're seeing these numbers get inflated across the board. So here I am trying to just swim upstream against a mighty public current here and getting burned for the last couple of weeks. But you got to come back to the well.
Hey, keep fighting the good fight, right?
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Pace, you got a teaser for us? Can't hear you.
I think at this stage, if you're betting my teasers, you should probably just be betting against them. An amazing season last year, but things haven't gone well. Do we like at this stage? I feel like there's a little Houdini act in the NFL last week with Lamar Jackson. Like, is he now going to play? Because
I read that he's playing. Yeah.
Right.
When I was looking at fantasy stuff, they were saying that this would be the week that he comes back.
Right. A few teaser legs I like. I like the Broncos plus 7.5. I like the Ravens down to minus 1.5. I like the Giants to plus 8.5 at home. I like the Lions down to minus 2.5. Sorry, Shane. They're playing your guys. And I think I will leave it at that. Just looking at the rest of the menu, there's definitely some stuff that makes sense. Perhaps the Bills plus 7.5 as well. So it's one of these ones where you could slap a bunch together, but all of those legs that I mentioned, I think are good teaser legs, especially if you're getting below 3 and over 7, ideally over 8.
Okay, so no official teaser, but some spots
Oh,
there.
Whoa, no, put them all together.
Oh, that's it. That is the official teaser.
It's a get it all back. It's a get it all back week.
Yeah, baby.
Slap it all together.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Toss it together. Can we put that on SX? Can we get those lines on SX, do you think?
The money line ones you can. So you can piece together the money lines. Yeah.
There we go.
And just to John's point, I got to give a shout out to our friends at BetStamp here. I'm going through his bets and just makes things really nice looking at the lines, whether you have the paid product or not. Just being able to look at the lines and the odds comparisons to get the best line. So they've hooked us up at BetStamp for our group. So I want to give them a little shout out and just basically say that if you're betting pregame on John's stuff and you're thinking, oh geez, where is that line? It's just a really nice display to go find those best odds.
Nice. All right. They gave us a little something. You're using it now. Is there anything for IPL members to know?
Yeah, so I think that what we'll do is we haven't determined exactly when, but I think Friday nights make sense. We always have a little college football on Friday nights, but we'll just do a screen share and we'll just organize things by edge for Saturday's slate.
Oh, cool.
And people can look at where the greatest edges are pregame. And sometimes there's some good middles. So as an example, like you might get a 2-point or 1-point window for a total in college, where there might be EV on both sides, but they'll also calculate which side they believe has the edge of one of those two soft lines for you. So if you have the sports books that will show on those Friday night shares, you can then just go to those books and play some bets pregame on Saturday and kind of close your eyes thereafter and then go into our live betting for the day.
Wow. That actually might be like something key for me. I tune in on a Friday night. I might be able to place a couple college wagers and then go about my Saturday and all the busyness that comes with a Saturday weekend for me.
Totally. So this is something that's kind of just stemmed with us from Bet Bash. It's 2 years in the making. Chatting with those guys, Spencer and Johnny, just great guys, and they're throwing up some in-play live stuff on the BetStamp side of things, and I had never used their product before, and you can definitely see the differences between them and some of the other odd screens out there. I love the way they sort things by EV. It just really gives you a nice look.
Awesome, cool stuff. All right, and if you do want to place that teaser that Pace mentioned, maybe not the teaser, but throw the money lines together in the parlay, SX is the place to do it. They've got the tournament going on. You could get yourself up on that leaderboard pretty easily. I think I'm still up there in the money on the leaderboard. And we've got, I think, about 10 days maybe left in that tournament, so plenty of time to slap together some parlays where whether they win or lose, you could still make some money off of it by getting into the money on the leaderboard there. All right, I'll quickly recap then. So college football, it's Vandy money line, SMU plus 11.5, Utah minus 8.5, Nebraska plus 7. Getting that at around minus 120, paying a little bit extra there on that one. Stanford plus 14.5, Hawaii plus 2.5. Over to the NFL, Carolina Green Bay under 44.5. The Las Vegas Raiders hosting the Jags, taking the Raiders plus 3. New Orleans plus 14 at the Rams, and Washington plus 3.5. Arizona on the Monday nighter plus 3 on the road against Dallas. Did I get everything there?
I think so, yeah.
All right, good stuff. And the teaser, if you want to ride with Pace, massive teaser.
Let's go.
There we go. All right, good stuff, fellas. Till next week. Pace, John, sports bettors around the world. Keep beating those bucks. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Behind the Lines. Remember to like, download, and subscribe. We are on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and everywhere you get your podcasts. Have a betting story or want to be featured on our podcast? Drop a note in the comments below. And if you want to join in play live, use promo code Behind the Line.